Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to show you how to install the Motorguide Xi3 and Connect kit onto a Nucanoe Unlimited, the 12.5 foot version. I know there's a couple other videos out there already, but I'm going to show you a couple of tricks that I do that makes it a lot easier to run the wiring inside and a really nice clean setup. So let's get right into it, guys. So here you see the Kayak. So again, this is the Nucanoe Unlimited. I removed the seat. I've got it right there. So it gives you that clean deck, just removing all the clutter. And what I'm going to do first, obviously, is since they're going to be running the gear pod here, I am going to do it through this access plate. Now, when you're running the motor on the front, you'll see here in a little bit, I run that hole about toward the bottom here, because with that plate here, it gives you just a straight down plug. If you're not running the gear pod, what you can do, you can still do that, of course. A lot of people will run it right here because you got these little cutouts on both sides and on both ends. But I like the clean setup. You don't have wiring running across there. You can still use your horizontal rod storage, still use your gear pod, and it'd be a shame to run it there and then change your mind later. You could still run the gear pod with it like that. It's just, again, cleaner setup. It allows you that open deck space. I'm also going to be doing the deck completion kit on this Kayak, and it's going to look really sharp. So let's get started. Another thing before I get started on this, I always use a screwdriver, hand tools. You can use drill if you're really, really careful, but it's really easy to mess that up. And once you cross thread some of these things, you're going to run into some trouble. Ask me how I know. So let's get right into it. And you're also going to take the front handle off because your plate is going to replace that front handle. Okay. And you can see here, you've got these little metal threaded inserts. You are not going to be using these bolts again. The bolts that come with the motor mount plate will replace those, and they'll go in all three of these threaded inserts. Okay, and removing this, you've also got the little gasket on there as well. I'll just set that here. Again, you do have a little recessed area, so we're going to be doing with a hole saw, drilling right here and lining it up with the hole in this. So what's needed? Obviously your motor and your battery, but I've got here, this is the Motorguide quick release puck. It's got the plate that mounts on the bottom of your trolling motor, which you'll see here in a little bit, and it's got the puck that will mount right on top of your mounting plate. This allows you to pull that pin, which you see right here. It'll come off really easy. You have a Nucanoe wiring kit, and it is for the Frontier, the Pursuit, and the Flint. The Frontier kit is compatible with the Unlimited kit, but it gives you enough line. It gives you the plug-ins as well, which will go on the front and the back for your battery, and then the wiring that will go through here. This is a, I believe it is 6 gauge, or no, it's 8 gauge. Some people like to run a heavier gauge wiring. You don't have to use this kit. Some people reported some problems with the connections. Me personally, I've never had that before, but you can't, any wiring, any receptacle kit you can use, but for simplicity's sake, I like using the Nucanoe kit. And then the Unlimited bow motor mount. So you got the part number here. It is for the Unlimited. This is different from the Frontier. And it gives you step-by-step instructions. You got all the hardware, the washers with all of this. And the wiring kit actually comes with the heat shrink tubing you'll need to do to kind of make some of those crimps waterproof. So again, we'll get into drilling the hole here. And then we'll also, for the battery, I drill right here with the same hole saw. And then you'll mount that receptacle once we get the wire through. Removing your access plate gives you access. And what I do, this is always, I'll show you here in a little bit, But once I drill this hole in the plate and I'm running the wiring through, what I do is I'll take a piece of paracord and a heavy tool, usually like a heavier socket, and then tip the boat up, and then it will run that wiring through it. And on the other end of that paracord, I'm going to tie it to the wiring that I'm just going to pull through it. Some people try to snake it through there, and when you get into all of these tubes for the scupper holes, it really creates a nightmare, and the wiring will actually curve naturally. It's a lot easier just to pull it through with the string, and we're pulling it right out of here. So I'll show you that here in a little bit, but right now I'm going to drill the holes here. Okay, so this is what you get inside the wiring kit. You get your red and green wire. I told you about the shrink tubing. You've got your 2 plugs, one for the battery, one for the trolling motor. They're both the same, so it doesn't matter which. You're just splicing them into the wire. You got your inline fuse block there. That'll go to your positive battery terminal, or the positive wire to the battery terminal, sorry. And you got 2 of these little plug-ins. So these little spring door, this is what you're drilling the hole for. So we'll have one right here for the battery. We'll do one up front here and in the access plate. So this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about a hole saw. I believe this is right at 1 inch. And you'll just compare it to the opening here, you know, to how big around this is. But I tend to go on the smaller side when drilling the hole. Reason being is if you drill it just a little bit too large of a diameter, you're going to be running into a problem with the screws that go on the edges here. If this is too close to the edge of that hole, it's not going to catch right, and you run the danger in getting a little bit of a loose receptacle there. So I go on the small side, and then I'll widen out just a little bit. You can do it with a Dremel. You can do it if you don't have a Dremel. You can just use a regular drill bit and just kind of work the edges a little bit. I know that sounds a little tedious, but you're going to get a much better fitment on that and a better securement of when you go to put those 2 screws, because these are just regular smaller screws, and they're going to go right on the edges there to hold it in place. Some people will use a little bit of marine goop on the inside of that just to kind of make that a little bit more watertight. I don't really worry too much about that, as if your hole is aligned correctly to your plug-in, you can do that. If you get a little bit too low or too high, you can put a little bit of marine sealant on there, but it's really not a huge deal there. Okay, so you see the hole I drilled there, and you can see this little recessed area. When you look at your plate, you can see kind of an outline. This is the top part. You can see kind of an outline there, so that can kind of allow you to properly align that. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it's got to be relatively close, because the plug doesn't sit too far down in there. This is mainly going to be for your plug and a lot of your wiring to go through. So again, you want it as close as you can, but it doesn't have to be just picture perfect on that. So did the same thing here, and you can see really, really simple. Everything lines up. Everything is where it should be. So, and again, the reason I take it off, technically you could just drill straight through both, but since I go through a little smaller bit and then have to widen it out, I do both of them individually. And also when I'm running the wire through, again, I just run it through it like that. So now what we're going to do, we're going to take our wiring, we're going to straighten it out as much as possible, but I'm going to tie that piece of paracord, one end to the wiring and the other to a heavier socket. I'm going to drop that socket in there with the paracord attached. I'm going to tip the boat up, let that socket work its way down to this access hatch. So I've got the string here, and I've got the other end of the string tied to this wire, and we're just going to pull that wiring kit through both the negative and the positive. Okay, so again, just a piece of paracord here, and I've got a pretty good little socket. This is a 21 millimeter, but any decent sized socket that's got some weight to it, and I've just got it tied through it. So what we're going to do is we're going to drop it in there. We're going to tie this other end to the wiring, and then we're just going to run it through. Okay, so I'm going to start here with the ground what I do is I'll just bend a loop. And again, this is pretty good gauge wire. And then I'm just going to tie a knot and just do you a simple overhand knot because you're going to have to untie it when it comes back out of there. So it doesn't have to be anything super duper. Drop it right down here. And then I've got this sitting on a stand, but if you don't have I've just got a wooden crate stand, just anything you can set it on top toward the middle, and it makes it easier if you're just tilting something up. And then just come up here and you can come to the side. So again, I'm just feeding this through, and if you hear it stop rolling around, you can kind of, there we go. Yeah. So it's going. Okay, so you can see it's come all the way to the bottom, and we're going to gently, because again, I didn't do a super tight knot on that, just a little double overhand knot, and all I'm doing is I'm just putting, and there you go. So what this keeps you from having to do is, and I know this from experience, also make sure you don't pull it too far, otherwise you're going to have a hard time getting that out. So on this here, you've got both ends still here. You've got it over there and here as well. So we're just going to repeat the same process for your positive or your red wire. We're going to get, once we get both of them sticking out the end here and both of them still sticking out of the front, we're going to splice them into those plugs once we drill our holes, which we've already done on the front there, and then we'll be ready to start finishing up the wiring part of it. This is probably the hardest part of the entire install, is running the wiring through. First couple of these I did, it's just me trying to feed the wiring through there, and it's getting caught up on something inside the hole, and it's curling up on the inside. It's just a pain in the butt. You're better off just doing some paracord, dropping it through there, tying the other end to the wire and just pulling it through gently. Super easy. It'll save you a ton of frustration. All right, so you can see here on the mounting plate, I've got this little, this is a pretty, I don't have fingernails, so you can see here just a plug-in. It snaps closed, and it's literally just drilled right into this plate. So putting this back on, one thing, don't forget to put that gasket back on there before you start crimping your wires together. Again, ask me how I know. And you're just going to strip a little bit of wire off, plug it in here, and if you got a set of wire strippers, again, you're just going to clamp down. Another important note is make sure you put the shrink tubing on before you do that as well. So what I do is I'll just kind of fit it like that. I'll put like maybe a 1/2 inch on each side. And then I will just mark it, cut it. And then I've got a heat gun here. You don't have to have a heat gun. Don't run out and go buy a heat gun just to do this. You can also use just a simple lighter. But what you want to do is once you crimp this, and once you get this where you want it, start at the middle and then work your way out. And I'll show you when I do that. Why? So if you start at the ends and work your way in, you can kind of have some air trapped into here, but we'll get to that here in a second. Okay, so I've got it crimped here, it's secure. Then I'm just going to slide this over it. Make sure you've got plenty. You'll feel the ends of the tubing here. See how it's shrinking down, but I'm doing it at the middle. And when you get that kind of warm and you start moving slowly to the end, it's going to wrap really nicely around the ends of that crimp tube. Again, you can do this with a lighter. But if you or your significant other are into crafts, you've probably got a heat gun laying around. And I just kind of get the underneath of it really good.
Hair dryer works pretty well as well.
It does. But you can see, again, it kind of seals. Not sure if you can see that on there or not. But it'll seal really nicely, and it'll kind of melt on the inside, which will stick to that tubing really good. It's secure. It's watertight. I'm going to do that on this one as well, and then we're going to install this plate back onto the kayak. Okay, so you can see I've got the plate back on. I've got the gasket underneath it. What I do, you don't want to tighten down each individual one. What I do is I'll start here, tighten this one, tighten this one, tighten this one, and kind of go in a crisscross. That way it keeps your gasket from squeezing out the edge of one side. So I'll kind of tighten this down. And I don't tighten down all the way. I'll just kind of make it firm, go crossways here, tighten this one down, and so on and so forth, and keep kind of doing that, you know, crisscross instead of doing it, you know, one right after another. You can see on the Nucanoe, you've got the little divot there. That's perfect for your drill bit to fit right in. Right there. All right, so this is on the back end here. This is, again, just drilled the hole, screwed the 2 screws in here. And again, you got a nice flip-up door to plug in. So that is it. The wiring is all internal. You just have the plug-in on the front, which you see right there. And back here. So now we're ready to install the motor on the front. We'll do the motor plate, the motor mount on the front there. There is Mrs. Paddler. So she's helping out today. But anyways, we'll get on to, I'll get the motor out of the box and then we'll get that set up. Okay, so this is the motor. We'll do kind of a quick unboxing video, if you will. So definitely make sure you save the cards that come with it, because this is how you register for your warranty. It's pretty relatively simple. I never like to call anything simple. Okay, so this is what's in the box. So you got your motor here. You've got this in here. This is going to be your Bluetooth remote. You got your warranty card here. You got your cable that's already attached to it. We will be clipping this, and that's always the part that just spikes my blood pressure just a little bit. But we'll be clipping that, and we'll be using the pigtail for the battery, and we'll be installing that on the back. But we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna mount the bow mount plate to put this on with a quick release puck. And after that, it's just splicing a couple of wires together. Okay guys, so what you see here, this is the Nucanoe bow motor mount. What you see right here, this is the item number to order it. So what you see here, it does look a little different on both sides, and there is a technique in doing this that's going to save you a lot of heartache. So the bolts that come with this, you're going to want to install this one for the tip of the nose first. Just thread it through here, and I'll show you what I mean by in a second, because we're getting ready to put the quick release puck. Once that puck goes on there, it'll cover this a little bit, and you don't want to get that puck on here and then have to take everything off just so you can put that bolt on there. Okay, so again, the plate. These are the 3 bolts that are going to replace. Again, that first bolt is going to go there on the tip, and then you're going to have these 2 that were used for the handle. It's going to replace those. But I was saying before, just take you a washer and one of those bolts, and you're just going to set it right there in the plate like that. You're not putting it in the kayak yet, but you want to put that tip in there before we mount the quick release puck. And you'll see what I mean once I install the puck here, which I'm fixing to do. Okay, can you see, hopefully you can see on the video there, how these will kind of flare inward. You want the narrowest part to be pointed up, because when it goes on there, the plate that's on the bottom of the trolling motor is going to fit around that. It's going to slide down on it. But I'm going to line these up real quick. So lining these up, you can see how it covers that front bolt. You're not going to have any problem on the side ones down here for the handle, but this one right here, it covers it up halfway, and you can't get it in there if you do this first. So that's why I say the very furthermost tip for the tip of the kayak, just put that screw and washer in there. You'll still be able to screw it in with a Phillips head screwdriver, but you'll want to do that before you put this on. Okay, so this is the mounting plate for the bow with the quick release puck. So it comes with these 4 screws. You got the nuts and washer on the back. And again, that screw that you put in there that you're not going to have to worry about later, you will thank me for that. And then after that, we're ready to mount this to the boat. All I got to do is thread this into the tip, and then where the handle was, replace those bolts with the bolts that come with the kit. All right, so what you see here, this is installed on the boat. This is the motor bracket with the 3 screws, 1 on the tip and then 2 replacing the handle, and then the quick release puck. You do delete the handle by doing this, but you do gain the handle on the back, which is really nice. The quick release puck allows you to mount the motor on there, and there's a pin that goes right in the side here. So you'll see the hole here and the hole here. You can do it on either side, and you can choose which side that installs on. And it's simply this in here. So it locks in place, which is really nice. So I'm going to go ahead and install the bracket that goes around that on the motor, and then we're going to install the motor onto the kayak. Okay, I've got the motor here. So before you install the plate, you'll need to remove the side covers, and there's only 1 bolt. There's little tabs that slide in here, and then there's 1 bolt in there. It's a little Phillips head that you'll take out, and then this whole thing will remove. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that. Okay. And then this will pop right off. And there's another one on the other side. But when this plate, the plate, which you see right here, is going to bolt directly on there. And then this is going to simply slip right on top of that. So that's how you utilize the quick release puck. Okay, so I've got the side cover off here and right here. So this is the bottom of it. This is that quick release plate. You'll have the short side where the motor deploys at there. Because if you reverse it, this is going to block it coming down all the way. So just like that. And the farthest screw hole will go in the furthest one here. So you'll line that up just like that. And you'll make sure, you'll see how each corresponding hole has the little notch. These middle holes are where you put in the clips. So depending on which side you want the quick release bracket, there's a little locking clip that goes in this slot here or that slot right there. And I'll show you that here again, but I'm gonna go ahead and get the screws on here, and then I'll show you what that looks like when I'm done. This is that clip. This is the clip I was telling you about. So again, you're just gonna press that in there, and you're gonna line up so you can get that bolt in. Went a little too far there. There you go. And then after that, you're just gonna take the washer and the bolt, put it right through there. Okay, again, this is the bottom of the Xi3. I've got the bolts, and I don't tighten them down all the way just so they kind of sit loose in there just to make sure in case I need to make any adjustments. But now I'm just going to take the supplied hex wrench, which you see right here, and just tighten these down. You may need a 7/16 wrench just to hold on to these and keep them still while you tighten them here, or vice versa. But we'll get these tightened down. I'll get those covers back on, and then we'll just be ready to set it back on the front of the kayak. Okay, so again, got the covers back on the sides, got the quick release plate here on the bottom, and you can kind of already see where that quick release puck comes into play. It just sits right down on there, and I've got the little clip installed on this side. These just go in those 2 holes, and it locks in place with that clip. And you can see, you can pick the boat up so it stays on there nice and secure. To deploy it, hit that pedal, and it'll deploy and it'll lock in place. And that's it. So we got it mounted. This is where we're going to cut the wire, and then we're going to splice in the plug here. and then that is going to plug down here in this door that we installed on that access plate. And we want to keep that relatively short. I always try to give myself a little room for error. So you'll kind of want it about like this, so I know I'll cut it right about here. And again, remember, you do have some wire on this, so you don't have to quite go that long, but we'll do that. And then cutting this leaves you with the battery pigtails here. So we'll take this part, splice it into our other plug to be plugged into the back, and then this will go onto your battery. And guys, that's really it. I'll show you the finished product. Don't forget that you've got the inline fuse. That is going to go on this right here. So it'll require another cut and a splice to run that fuse. That prevents a power surge going from your battery to your motor, and it'll prevent it from frying your motor. So it's definitely worthwhile. But I'll show you the finished product to kind of show you what I did there. And then after that, you're ready to hook to your battery and get it out on the water.
Move it up just a little bit. Right about there. All right, so all I've done is, again, cut the cord, spliced in the plug, used my heat shrink there. Again, that seals it really nicely. So now you've got, and again, this door can be a little stubborn sometimes, but that's a good thing. And again, that is going to plug just right into there. And that's it.
All right, so what you see here, that's plugged in on the front. I've got this plugged in and done. This is your inline fuse. One thing that's really important to note is the brass. You got a brass and you got just a regular silver colored here. Your brass one is the one that goes to from there to the battery, and it's the positive terminal. This, again, is to keep any kind of power surge from going and frying your motor. It'll just pop the fuse, you replace that, you're fine, but it keeps, you got the little button there. There are other brands, but this is what Nucanoe sells, so again, this is why I'm doing that. So you got your positive and your ground. Again, your fuse block is going to go in line on your positive. Your brass is the line that goes straight to it. And again, all of these little rings that you see here are included. You're just splicing them in with the included hardware. Same thing with this. You got the little crimp tubes. But guys, this is it for the motor install. When the customer brings the battery, you just hook it up to the battery. Usually it's a battery box there. And again, you've got a complete circuit. That'll turn on. So we're going to go ahead and get this cleaned up. And we're going to start on the deck completion kit. So got the motor done. Now what we're doing is we have cleaned off everything, all the clutter. We've gone through and we vacuumed up all of the loose shavings, any particle matter, and we've taken some alcohol and we've gone over the entire deck, and we're letting it air dry. That's really important too. So we're wiping down with alcohol, letting it air dry, which you'll do very quickly, and we're going to do the deck completion kit. So the best way to do this is take it all out of the package, and it's like a puzzle. There's not exactly great directions on this, but you're not really going to need that because the shapes here are going to match the shapes on the Kayak, including up here on the gunnels. And you want to place everything to make sure, one, you've got a complete kit, and two, everything, you know where everything's going. So once you start peeling the back of it, you're going to be able to do that. So we're going to get it laid out. We'll show you what that looks like, and then we'll start peeling the backs off of them. And I kind of go over it a little bit with a heat gun there. Okay, so this is just laid out, the deck completion kit. And this is where the standard kit is, this right here, this in the middle, the stand-up area, and then this right here. But other than that, everything else is part of that deck completion kit. Looks really nice, but if you purchase this, it doesn't matter what color it is, hopefully this helps you out, know where everything is placed, where everything goes. Again, I've got a clean surface. I've got the deck completion laid out so we know where everything's going to go. And now we're just going to go through piece by piece and peeling the backs off of it. And I usually start from one end. It doesn't matter which end, but just start from one end and just press up. Again, that makes it to where you're not having the air bubbles, you're not having any of that. Once we get everything stuck to it, I let it sit just for a second, and then I just kind of go over it once with the heat gun, just kind of back and forth, just to heat it up just a little bit. I don't want it to get too hot, but just to help cure that adhesive that's holding it on there. And the alcohol is really going to help with that as well. Everything is installed. It's adhered to. Again, I go over it with the heat gun, and I just do a little bit on the edges there just to kind of make sure everything is adhered. Obviously, it keeps it from warping around, but my favorite part about this, obviously from the fact that it finishes the deck off really nice, I love that they do the gunnels up here. I don't know why. There may not be a huge benefit to that, but aesthetically talking, it is just absolutely phenomenal. The deck completion kit is $160 MSRP from Nucanoe. You can buy them in all the different colors that come with all of their kayaks, which it's, I believe, charcoal. I think they do a tan, and they do obviously the green here, and I think they just do a straight black. Just any color that is on the deck of the Nucanoes. But just really finishes it off nicely. We're going to go ahead and put the chair back on here, put the gear pod, clean everything up in here, and I'll show you the finished product just to kind of show you what this looks like. Because again, I'm just kind of a kayak nerd myself. I like nice things, so we'll see you here in a second. All right, everybody, so we finished the Motorguide Xi3 install on the Nucanoe Unlimited, as well as the deck completion kit. We added the gear pod, and she's ready to pick up for the customer here tomorrow. Let's see how she turned out. Okay, everybody, so I hope you enjoyed the video. I tried to go through everything relatively quickly. There's a ton of videos of people doing different installs on this, so hopefully you learned a couple things from me that may make the install easier for you, or maybe give you the confidence to tackle this job on your own. Again, out of 5 stars, I would rate it about a 2.5 to 3. It can be a little tedious sometimes, but there's some really easy steps you can do to really cut down the time, and really minimal tools are needed. So anyways, if you have any questions, let me know down in the comments below. And as always, thank you so much for watching, guys.